Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The date is June 15th, 2020. The time is now 7 p.m. Before the council meeting convenes this evening, we have a public hearing on ordinance 1036 concerning infrastructure bonds. Before we receive any comments from the public, I will read the header of the bond ordinance into the record for the public hearing. An ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Havre, Grace, a municipal corporation of the state of Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, and sections 33 and 34 of the Charter of the Issuer, providing for the issuance and sale of an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $15 million of bonds of the Mayor and City Council of Havre, Grace, to be known as, quote, Mayor and City Council of Havre, Grace, Infrastructure Bonds 20-Series dash, unquote. As such designee may be modified by the administration to reflect the appropriate year and series designated as provided for herein, the bonds, to be issued and sold pursuant to the authority of sections 4-101 through 4-255 of the Housing and Community Development article of the annotated Code of Maryland, as amended in section 39 of the Charter of the Issuer, which such bonds may be issued in one or more series and through one or more issues over each of the next 5 years for the purpose of, one, providing all of the portion of the funds necessary for financing and or refinancing certain capital projects, as more specifically providing herein. 2, funding a portion of a capital reserve fund, and 3, paying issuance and other costs related to the bonds, providing that the bonds shall be issued upon the full faith and credit of the issuer, providing for the disbursement of the proceeds of the sale of the bonds and for the levy of annual taxes upon all assessable property within the corporate limits of the issuer for the payment of the principal and the interest on bonds as they shall respectively mature, providing for the form, tenor, denomination, maturity date or dates, and other provisions of the bonds, providing for the sale of the bonds, and providing for related purposes, including, without limitation, the method of fixing the interest rate or rates to be borne by the bonds, the approval, execution, and delivery of documents, agreements, certificates, and instruments, and the making of or providing for the making of representations and covenants concerning the tax status of interest on the bonds. Do we have anyone from the public outside the door who wishes to speak? Okay, nobody wishes to speak from the public. I have not received any emails to read into the record. Has any council member received emails to read into the record from any citizens?
None.
Does any council member have any comments? Council President.
I've got a question for the city attorney. Given the importance of trying to get the bonds in place to capitalize on the interest rates, would it be okay to move the second reading and the vote for this to tonight?
Yeah, under the charter, for exigent circumstances, you can waive the requirement of the second reading not being on the same date as the public hearing. And because the CDA is requesting all documentation to be in place by the first week of July, I would recommend that that would be appropriate, because by the time we meet next, we only have a day or two in order to get everything finalized. So that would be appropriate in this case.
That being said, I make a motion to waive the requirement and move the vote to tonight.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by the CP, seconded by Councilman Robertson. If I understand you correctly, you want to vote on the ordinance 1036 this evening
Second reading, yes.
for second reading. Vote on it.
That's correct.
Okay. Motion by Council President, seconded by Councilman Robertson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion is approved, 6-0 in the affirmative. We will be voting then on ordinance 1036 this evening.
April, thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, any other further questions or comments from the council on ordinance 1036? Okay, without any further comment and without any comments from the public, I now conclude the public hearing on ordinance 1036. The time is 7:05. Good evening. The date is June 15, 2020. The time is now 7:06 p.m. I call to order a meeting of the Havre de Grace Mayor and City Council. I'd like to call the roll. Council President Glenn.
Here.
Councilmember Zinner.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson.
Here.
Councilmember Ringsager.
Here.
Councilmember Boyer.
Here.
All council members are present and accounted for. Please join me for a roll call and pledge of allegiance. Already did roll call, sorry. Pledge allegiance and opening prayer. Pledge allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I can ask everybody to please remain standing as the council president will read the opening prayer submitted by Pastor Mary Whitehead of the Healing House. Council President.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we pray for our country, USA, the state of Maryland, Harford County, and the city of Havre de Grace. Seems like everything and everyone are in chaos. Who is there that can help us with this situation? Only you, as we lean on and seek your wisdom, your knowledge, your ways. Lord, we ask that you forgive us for not acting in love. Lord, open our hearts to hear from you. Touch the hearts of our leaders to seek your direction. Open the floodgates of heaven and pour down your mercy, for your word says that your love and your mercies are new every morning. We thank you for our leaders of Havre de Grace. We pray that they will hear from you and lead our city into prosperity, peace, wisdom in all situations, and they will produce laws that benefit all the residents. We declare tonight, Havre de Grace City shall live in peace. We declare tonight, all who live in Havre de Grace shall live in prosperity. We declare tonight, all decisions by Havre de Grace Council will benefit everyone. We declare tonight, healing and restoration shall reign in Havre de Grace. We thank you, Lord, that you hear our prayers and declarations and that you answer our plea. We therefore do pray and declare all the above in the name that is above all names, Jesus Christ. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Amen. Council President, thank you very much. And Pastor Whitehead, thank you very much for submitting your words. We're going to move on to item number 5 of this evening's agenda, approval of the minutes from council meeting of June 1st, 2020. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Ringsager, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. Questions or comments?
I will be abstaining from the vote.
Councilmember Martin will abstain from the vote. Any other questions or comments on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Council meeting minutes from the June 1st, 2020 council meeting are approved, 5-0 in the affirmative with 1 abstention. Item number 6, comments from the mayor. Just briefly, I just want to welcome everybody watching this live stream, or if you're watching this as a first-time airing on Tuesday night. Just want to let everybody know that this is our 5th council meeting we've had to conduct in which we had to observe the 10 limit rule inside this council chamber. And so we're keeping the number with the elected officials, the city attorney, and the gentleman who's operating the camera. We're trying to honor that number of 10. So we are live streaming, and any action items on the agenda in which the public wishes to come and speak under citizens' comments on agenda items. As we did the previous 4 meetings, we are allowing public comment to be greeted at the door, and we will greet the citizens and walk them into the room, and the citizen can address the entire council on an agenda item. And we will be getting to comments from citizens on agenda items next. So with that said, hopefully, we're hoping this may be the last meeting in which we have to do this. Maybe we can go into a more modified setup with social distancing in place for the July 6th meeting. But for this evening, just want to let everybody at home who's watching this, if you don't see anybody in the audience, it's because there's nobody in the audience at the moment. But we are allowing public comment on agenda items.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
before we head into agenda items, I would like to make a friendly amendment to pull appointments, number 8 from the agenda, as there will be no appointments tonight for the Board of Elections.
Okay, council, the council president wants to remove item number 8, appointments. Any objections? Okay, council president, item number 8, appointments. There'll be no appointments this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move into item number 7, comments from citizens on agenda items. Are there any citizens wishing to speak to the council? No citizens outside? Okay. We will move on to item number 9, or item number 8, which has been removed from the council agenda. Item number 9, resolutions. This evening, there are no resolutions. Item number 10, ordinances. This evening, we have 2 ordinances to address, both on second reading. Ordinance, item A, ordinance 1035 concerning the city budget. Councilmember Robertson?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I move to introduce on second reading ordinance 1035 for the FY 2021 city budget.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Robertson, seconded by the council president. This is a motion to introduce ordinance 1035 concerning the budget. Any questions on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce ordinance 1035 carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Ordinance 1035 concerning the fiscal year 2021 city budget. Second reading, an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace by the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated code of Maryland, and Section 37 of the Havre de Grace City Charter for the purpose of establishing the city's budget for fiscal year 2021 by designating the annual projection of anticipated revenues and proposed authorized expense for the city of Havre de Grace for fiscal year 2021. Council, to have a motion to adopt the budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Robertson, second by Councilmember Ringstocker. Questions or comments on the budget? Council, I'm going to call the roll. Councilmember Ringstocker.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Council President Glenn.
Yes.
By a roll call vote of 6-0 in the affirmative, the fiscal year 2021 operating budget for the city of Havre de Grace is adopted and approved by this council. Thank you very much. We're going to go to item B, ordinance 1036 concerning infrastructure bonds. Councilmember Robertson.
Evening again, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move to introduce on second reading ordinance 1036, city infrastructure bonds.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Robertson, seconded by Councilmember Martin. This is the introduction of ordinance 1036 for second reading. Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce ordinance 1036 for second reading carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Guess I need to read this again, huh? Okay,
Sorry.
stand by. It's all good.
State requirement.
Take
All
a,
good.
take a deep breath.
It's all good. If you're watching this at home, hang on for a second. Okay. Ordinance 1036 concerning infrastructure bonds. An ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, a municipal corporation of the state of Maryland, known as the issuer, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, and Sections 33 and 34 of the Charter of the issuer, providing for the issuance and sale of an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $15 million of bonds of the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, to be known as, quote, Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Infrastructure Bonds 20-Series-, end quote. As such, designation may be modified by the administration to reflect the appropriate year and series designation as provided for herein, also known as the bonds, to be issued and sold pursuant to the authority of Sections 4-101 through 4-255 of the Housing and Community Development Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, as amended in Section 39 of the Charter of the issuer, which such bonds may be issued in one or more series and through one or more issues over each of the next 5 years for the purpose of, 1, providing all or a portion of the funds necessary for financing and or refinancing certain capital projects as more specifically provided herein, 2, funding a portion of the capital reserve fund, and 3, paying the issuance and other costs related to the bonds. Providing that the bond shall be issued upon the full faith and credit of the issuer, providing for the disbursement of the proceeds of sale of the bonds and for the levy of annual taxes upon all assessable property within the corporate limits of the issuer for the payment of the principal of the interest of the bonds as they shall respectively mature, providing for the form, tenor, denomination, maturity, date, or dates, and other provisions of the related purposes, including, without limitation, the method of fixing the interest rate or rates to be borne by the bonds, the approval, execution, and delivery of documents, agreements, certificates, and instruments, and the making of or providing for the making of representations and covenants concerning the tax status of interest on the bonds. Council, to have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Robertson. This is a motion to adopt ordinance 1036 on second reading. Questions or comments before the roll call? Councilmember Martin.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank all the members of the Water and Sewer Commission for the efforts they put into providing information. The administration and the staff for coming up with all these capital projects and putting the funding dollars requested so that we made an educated decision. And the City Council itself for taking the time to go through this in great detail. I'm proud of the legislation. I'm proud of the work they all did. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Martin. Any other questions or comments? Okay, roll call vote. Ordinance 1036 regarding infrastructure bonds. Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ringsager.
Yes.
Council President Glenn.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 6-0 in the affirmative. Ordinance 1036 concerning infrastructure bonds is adopted and approved by this council. Thank you very much, council. Item 11 this evening, as we go to item 11, is old business. This evening we have no old business. Item 12 is new business. This evening on the new business docket, we have 2 items to be addressed by council. Item A is going to be a license agreement for a fence in the right-of-way of 322 South Union Avenue. Councilmember Ringsager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'd like to introduce a license agreement for a fence in the right-of-way on 322 South Union Avenue.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Ringsager. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Zinner. Questions or comments on the license agreement? Council President?
For this particular license agreement regarding the fence, when I looked at section 3201-3 associated with the building code, it states the following: no encroachment into the public right-of-way for construction or installation of any structure may take place without prior approval of the mayor and city council. In this particular case, the fence is already up. And they said the fence can easily come down. But in prior situations, when it's come to my vote on a fence, without prior approval, we've made the homeowner take the fence down and then submit the application. One could easily say, well, you could just look the other way. It's no major issue. But my question would be, what if the next time somebody puts in a request that's going to really have an adverse impact on the surrounding neighbors, and that individual says, I saw how you voted on this particular licensing agreement, and you look the other way, I want you to look the other way for me. So tonight, I'm going to be staying true to my vote. I've always said I'm going to stick to the city code and the language in the city code, and for that reason, I'll be voting no.
Thank you, Council President. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Ringsager.
All right, I'd like to read the letter here from our planning department with the Director Shane Grimm. The Department of Planning has received a permit application for the construction of a fence in the front of 322 South Union Avenue. The fence is an approximately 3-foot-tall black metal no-dig decorative fence that is located adjacent to the sidewalk. The fence is attractive and easily removable if necessary. Therefore, the department has no objection to the approval of the license agreement for the property owner to keep this fence. A copy of the site plan is attached to this memo, which we all have. The department recommends the following conditions of approval. Number 1, the fence shall be maintained and repaired as necessary. Number 2, the grass and/or garden shall be maintained in the area of right-of-way, and no debris or materials shall be permitted to accumulate within the right-of-way. If it is necessary for city staff to access the right-of-way in this area for any reason, the property owner shall remove the fence at their expense upon the request of the city. My issue with this current fence, the homeowner did put up the fence prior to seeking approval. It's a discussion that I had recently at the Planning Commission meeting about another issue, is that, dealing with City Hall is not, intrinsic knowledge, and that's a phrase they made fun of me for, but it's not something that everybody would know how to do and know what the necessary steps are. So in speaking with our Director of Planning, he explained some level of discretion that we have as council members to allow that fence to stay up and to stay the enforcement of it while the homeowner brings it up to code by seeking a lease agreement. And that's what we're doing here. It's a very nice, pretty little black fence that she's mulched around. It is in the city right away. Her property technically ends right at her front doorstep, as does most people along Union Avenue, and the right-of-way goes from her property line out to the street that she's forced to maintain, and she wanted to have a nice little fence there that basically meets the same line of the other fences along Union Avenue. They're in a similar block. I have no problem with using that discretion to allow her to keep that fence up without enforcement until she gets this lease agreement, which I hope passes tonight. I think it would be a disservice to our citizens not to, grant them a little leeway on issues like this. Expecting now that in the future that if she does have any building on her property that she does come to us first and seek the proper permitting process and lease agreements. And she understands that as well. We have spoken with the neighbor next door, and her main issue was the fence in the RO district, which there is a little question about the code where it specifically states about having the fence in the front yard, but it's the stance of the planning department that that fence is actually in the right-of-way, is not technically her front yard, and it is it does meet the similar fence line of other fences on the street. So I do ask for the vote.
Thank you, Councilmember Ringsager. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Zinner?
Yes, thank you. I agree. I know it's a difficult decision, and I understand what Council President Glenn is saying, but I agree with Councilmember Ringsacker. I had gotten an email from a citizen regarding that fence, and I drove over to see it. And I found it absolutely meets this description here and I just saw it as maybe a garden boundary almost, because I couldn't find a gate. And it just didn't look like what a typical fence would look like in terms of height and along that street. But I did think that the color of the fence, the non-obtrusiveness in my mind, which is objective obvious, or subjective, fit in with the neighborhood, because I had noticed similar fences, but they were at a higher height, but made of the same materials. And I didn't know until I read this whether or not that the fence could be easily removed or not. But I think that that's another point in their favor, because if there is some issue, the fence could be easily taken down. But to give them maybe a short time frame to, once this is passed, to have everything resolved, I think might be appropriate in this situation.
Thank you, Councilmember Zinner. Any further questions or comments? Councilmember Boyer?
I just have a question. What is a no-dig fence?
It's a fence where she purchased the fence panels, and instead of cementing them into the ground, they actually pressed down into the soft soil. It's a
So
3
this is
foot.
more decorative than
Yeah, it's very
functional.
decorative. It's like Councilwoman Zinner said, it's more of a garden boundary. She's mulched around it. It's quite nice actually, but it's non-obtrusive. I actually drove past it twice before I saw it. It's about 3 foot tall. It's rather safe fence. I don't think there's any safety issues with people along the sidewalk or anything. And it's one where you push the panels into the ground and you bolt them together. You can buy one at Home Depot.
I just think this is another way for us to be reasonable with the people who live in the city. Absolutely understand where you're coming from, Dave. Fences are a rough thing around here. But again, I kind of come from this is more decorative than functional fence. And, but in the future, I completely agree with you. If there was a fence company that came in and installed that and put cement in, then, they did her a disservice. They would have done her a disservice by not letting her know that there's a requirement for a permit. But in this case, with it being decorative, I'm all with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Council, I will be doing a roll call on this license agreement. There's a roll call for license agreement for a fence in the right-of-way at 322 South Union Avenue. I had a motion to approve by Councilmember Ringsacker and seconded by Councilmember Zinner. The roll call vote. Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes?
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
Council President Glenn.
No.
Councilmember Ringsacker.
Yes.
By a roll call vote of 5-1 in favor, license agreement for a fence in the right-of-way at 322 South Union Avenue is approved by council. Thank you very much. Go to item B. A memorandum of agreement between Aberdeen and Havre Grace for water purchase. Council President, is that your, wait a minute, who's that? I'm sorry. Is that Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go forward with the memorandum of agreement between the City of Aberdeen and the City of Havre Grace for the water purchase.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Martin. Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Martin. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
Second by Councilmember Boyer. This is a motion to approve a memorandum of agreement between the City of Aberdeen and the City of Havre de Grace for a water purchase agreement. Questions or comments from the council?
On the introduction, or this is just,
This is just a simple approval.
yeah, right,
This is now to talk about it. Now's the time to talk. Yes.
Roger. I just want to make sure.
Sure, no problem.
Just a couple quick questions. So, number one is, did we figure out the 400,000 difference? Is that reserve capacity? Like they want us to always have that available? Because I see where, yeah, please. I see where they have, where it's written that, it would be written notification for anything other than emergencies. I just want to make sure that there's not an expectation that we have 400,000 gallons available all the time, in addition to the 5.
The 400,000 gallons is not a predetermined amount that is set aside solely for them at this time. If it's available upon their request, and we have it, then we can supply it to them if we choose. But it is not earmarked for them exclusively.
Okay. This, language is just a little mucky, and I know that, at one point we had discussed that they wanted the 400,000 in reserve capacity available, and I just want to make sure that, we're not locking ourselves into that additional cost.
We are not locked in. Both attorneys from both sides, that was an issue that we brought up and went back and forth when they took their part of their strategic pause. Both attorneys are in agreement in moving forward in the way it's written here, that 400,000 is not earmarked for them as it stands today. If they speak for it, then they have to purchase it.
I can add to, Councilmember, that when I discussed this with our Director of DPW, Tim Whitty, our current policy is not to allow reserve capacity unless there's some consideration exchange for that, and we're not in a position right now because of potential development coming on board to make that available at this time. So it's basically, it's there, the number is there, but it's not an automatic reserve. It's just kind of gives us some wiggle room to look at if they're going to make a first come, first served request on it, that was the number that they agreed to.
What's really the merit of having that number in there?
I think it speaks in general to the spirit of the agreement. Aberdeen is looking, for us, in establishing the rate structure, we gave them what I feel is a fair but generous bulk rate purchase agreement. But for us, we're looking ahead, and we want them to be a customer of ours and a robust customer of ours for years to come. And so in this agreement, what they're showing is their intent. They anticipate growing. They anticipate the need for additional water moving forward. So on both parties, we recognize the fact that while we're coming in with a minimum at this point of 500,000 gallons a day, there is every intent from both parties, one to purchase and the other to deliver an additional 400,000 within a relatively short period of time. And again, that's relatively speaking, whatever that means.
That's good. That could probably also be said with, we will provide additional capacity as available, via written agreement. I guess I'm just kind of hung up on the specific numbers, because when you get in specific numbers, I just want to make sure that we don't hold ourselves to an agreement, where later on down the road, they want us to start pumping out 400,000 gallons a day and have that capacity available for them, and we've locked ourselves into that. Now, I know that in the grand scheme, we ultimately would like to sell as much water as we can to Aberdeen. I know that we had discussed that a little bit at some length, and other than the rate structure being changed a little bit to 50,000 instead of 30,000, that's really the biggest difference that I see in this versus the old agreement. So I just want to make sure that, again, we're not locking ourselves into something, and we're not going to incur additional costs for reserving that capacity. If that's not the case, then I'm fine with the agreement as written.
Yes, the capacity is not being reserved for them at this time. And if you wanted me to touch base on some of the others, when they took their strategic pause and came back to us, if you go to study the agreement verbatim against the original one that we looked at, there was some clarification of terms and descriptions in the agreement. They also had, there was a request that that we look to hold our rate increases to the consumer price index, which we're not in agreement with because that's not what drives our rate structure here. And then they withdrew that request. There was also some clarification concerning individual and joint capital improvements. There are those improvements that we are going to make independent of what happens either with or without this agreement. And also, there may be some things we'll do independent as it relates to capital improvements with furthering this agreement. It also then lays the groundwork, should we decide to go into a joint agreement on some capital improvements that we could share. So that had some further clarification.
I think that that's a smart move too, so thank you very much.
You're welcome. Additionally, this MOU extends the potential life. Originally, we looked at a return on investment, in other words, pay back our investment in our infrastructure between 8 to 10 years, depending on how much water is purchased initially. Aberdeen would like to see this agreement go on further, and why not, right? We could have a customer, so we extended it for 20 years. Understand there's still a clause in there that if either party wishes to opt out, they can after we recover our capital investment. So it's all about the spirit of what we're trying to do here. It's a long-term relationship with one of our sister cities, and what's good for them is also good for us. And then they also, one other final point was, we looked at it and we said, now we don't want you to take this water and be selling it to a third party outside of city limits. And they also agreed they would not do that. So again, that protects our interest in this overall enterprise.
Very good.
So that's really the points and the differences between the original agreement and this. A little more clarification, a little more defined rate structure, and a longer-term relationship, I think, that we're building with them. So,
And one more
Thank-
question for you, Patrick. Just as an aside, do you know where Aberdeen is with their engineering for their portion of the project?
I believe their engineering for their pumping and all is pretty much in place as it relates to receiving water from us. I believe they're still working on their grid on how to get it to those areas that are suffering right now due to poor water volume and pressure.
Okay,
Be up on the hill,
very good.
Sherwood.
Appreciate it, sir.
Any other questions, Council may have? Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Just for clarification for the community at large, our current use is around 1.3,
That's
correct?
correct.
We are permitted for 4 million.
That is correct.
Okay, so that delta is about 2.7 million, right? So we'll still have just like 1.9, or no, that's not right. Yeah, 1.9 million gallons still available after this agreement is fully in effect with all 900,000 gallons. in
Yes,
for
we will
production.
still have reserve and
There's
capacity.
plenty of room on the other side of it for Havre Grace growth.
Yes, there is.
Well, we have to factor in too there's like 500 permits outstanding right now, and there's additional annexations that'll likely take place in the near future. So we
Looking-
have capacity for that too.
And
correct?
looking at the current annexations that are on the books or that we anticipate coming in, we are well within meeting, we have plenty of capacity to satisfy all of those.
You have the
That's- and-
capacity for everybody.
Well, there is a limit. There is a finite amount at this juncture, but Tim Whitty has studied that intensely, and we're very comfortable with these numbers and our abilities to service all these people, Aberdeen, our current citizens, and potential growth that's coming our way.
It's also possible to apply for a permit to increase capacity as well?
Correct. We can, remember, we are permitted to draw at this point what we're able to treat. As our treatment processes improve and become more efficient, the more we can treat, we can go back and reapply and increase our draw from the river.
With the current capability, with the with the plant that we have currently is 4.7, correct?
No, I would say it's more like 4.2,
4.2, with the current capacity, okay,
correct? But our permit's for 4.
4.4.
I mean,
Any other questions for Mr. Seipel? Council President?
I just want to state that I think this is a win-win for both Havre, Grace, and Aberdeen. This is a prime case where neighbors get together, they partner together, and they work to help each other. And anything that we can do to help a fellow neighbor out, I think it's in our best interest and to move in the right direction.
thank you.
Any other question, Mr. Seipel? Thank you, Council President. Thank you for answering questions, Mr. Seipel, and thank you for taking the lead on this negotiation with your counterpart over there in Aberdeen, Ms. Randy Robertson.
Good job.
Trust anyone with the last name Robertson, so.
Okay, we're going to, I'm going to also do a roll call on this. This is the memorandum of agreement between Aberdeen and the City of Havre de Grace for a water purchase agreement. How say you, Councilmember Robertson?
Aye.
Councilmember Zinner?
Aye.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Council President Glenn?
Yes.
Councilmember Ringstocker?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
By roll call vote of 6-0 in the affirmative, the memorandum of agreement between Aberdeen and Havre de Grace for the water purchase agreement is adopted and approved 6-0 in the affirmative. Thank you, council. We'll move on to item 13 this evening. We have director's reports. Mr. Seipel, welcome back.
Hey, Mayor, good evening. Good evening, council, and good evening, citizens. First of all, thank you so very much for your support on this water purchase agreement, as well as the bond. It's really key components, 2 very key components in moving this city forward. Our city elections will be held on Tuesday, June 23rd, right here at City Hall, right here in this room. It's located at 711 Pennington Avenue for those who need to dial in their GPS. Polls open at 7 a.m. and they will close at 8 p.m. Absentee ballots can be obtained from the Harford County Board of Elections. They're located at 133 Industry Lane in Forest Hill. For additional information, you can contact them at 410-638-3565. Absentee ballots must be received at City Hall on Tuesday, June 23rd by 5 p.m. City Hall will be closed, just opened today, but City Hall will be closed July 3rd in observance of Independence Day. City Hall will reopen on Monday, July 6th at 8 a.m. And the Farmers Market continues in fine fashion at Hutchins Park. They showcase local farmers, food and beverage producers, and artisans. They are open every Saturday, rain or shine, from now until mid-November. The market opens at 8:30, a half hour early, primarily for seniors and those with underlying health conditions, and runs until noon. Pre-orders are suggested and strongly suggested. Please consult the vendor directory and contact a vendor to arrange for a grab-and-go service at the market. Their website is havredegracefarmersmarket.com/vendor schedule map. And if you click on that, you'll pull up the vendor, their contact information, and you can pre-order. That comes in real handy for people like the bread man, because he sells out early most of the time. And that really concludes my remarks for this evening. I do appreciate, too, all of the people who attend our farmers market who do practice the CDC and the State of Maryland Health Department guidelines, maintaining their mask, maintaining social distancing. It shows a great respect for each other and the care we have for each other. So please continue on out there in TV land and continue to practice smart COVID-19 defense. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Seipel. I'd like to call Mr. Shane Grimm, our Director of Planning. Good evening, Mr. Grimm. What are you planning?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Lots of stuff. We're planning lots of things. So good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. First, I'd like to just say I'm glad that Mr. Robertson got his homework done yesterday.
Hey, thanks for the heads up.
No problem. So, first, I just want to start out with, I can't remember if I said this last time, but I really wanted to kind of thank Marissa Willis and Colleen Kritzer of the Department of Planning throughout our new protocols during the COVID pandemic. They did an excellent job in serving this community. It wasn't an easy task to convert from taking in permit applications to quickly learning how to take in permit applications over the internet and coordinate that with payment and through Donna, and also sending things up to the county electronically. The county was excellent with their protocols for doing that, so I didn't hear any complaints throughout. There was no delays in service whatsoever. We worked flawlessly as a team, so they really should be commended, both Marissa, not that the entire planning staff didn't do a good job, but specifically that is an important service to our citizens, and to see that it went flawlessly without any issues is really a testament to their hard work, and especially Colleen, who spent many long hours here when she was working at home, but would come in just to make sure that Marissa had what she needed so that we could get it to the county and they could get it back to us and get our citizens the permits in their hands so they could continue working. And an interesting thing is during this pandemic, there has been a lot of activity. People were still out there doing a lot of work with decks and sheds and things like that. So I thought things would have come to a halt, but that was not the case. So people were still keeping busy during this time. So anyways, just really wanted to thank the planning staff for how hard they worked during this time. They deserve all the kudos for doing that. Also just wanted to comment on, Diane Clare gave me something this evening to speak about regarding MDOT, Maryland Transit Administration's Regional Transit Plan. It's called Connecting Our Future, a Regional Transit Plan for Maryland. It provides a 25-year vision for mobility and defines public transportation goals for Central Maryland, which consists of the entire Baltimore metropolitan area. Within Harford County, it includes MARC commuter rail, commuter bus service, Harford Link, and mobility paratransit for those with disabilities. The draft document is currently online, and the comment period closes this Thursday, June 18th. You can look at the draft document at rtp.mta.maryland.gov. And they have about 700 comments right now. There is a live chat tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. that you can view also online, and the commission is meeting remotely on Thursday, June 18th in the morning from 9 to 12, and I believe you can also view that as well. So if you have comments on the regional transportation plan, then you can visit that website and provide all the comments that you desire. Another thing that has been on my desk for quite a while and we haven't been able to get around to is a matter concerning Hartford Transit and regarding bus shelters that Hartford Transit would like to construct within the city. Unfortunately, we did not get an early heads up from Hartford Transit on what their plans were. They kind of just hit my desk a couple months ago. So I did talk about that with them, that in the future that they should bring those plans to the city and they should be reviewed by city council. And I'm not sure who has the clicker to put some things up on the screen. Do you have the pictures, Patrick? We'll see if we have the pictures. So anyways, they have not been able to attend because of their protocols, but I thought in order to try to move this forward, we'd talk a little bit about this evening. I can provide you with the information. There are 5 locations around the city that are proposed to have new bus shelters that will be installed by Hartford Transit. They are all but one within State Highway Administration right-of-way. Thanks. They're within the State Highway Administration right-of-way, except for Pat's Pizza on Revolution. That will actually be on private property, and they will require an easement for that. So this is the standard unit that will be constructed in those locations. However, Patrick, if you could, I think there's one more, keep going. I asked at the library, and I'll go through the different locations, I asked at the library that they provide us with something that was a little bit more architecturally in keeping with the library instead of the stand. I think the other one is fine, is attractive looking, looks better than a lot of bus shelters. But this one is metal, has a domed ceiling on it, and I think it's more in keeping with the domed portico of the library, and they were amenable to that. So this is the type that we will have at the library, and at the other locations we'll have the standard type.
Where
So,
at the library?
This will be in, I can also provide you with the plans, I don't have them, but it would be in the front of the library, in the
So what's
grassed
considered
area.
the front? Is that considered, union or?
The union
It's
side.
union, okay.
Yes. That's all state highway right away, so they will have to get permits and approvals through the state highway. But then there's one at 501 South Union, which is actually on the side of the hospital. It's not really on Union. It's on the side of the hospital. As I said, Pat's Pizzeria, McDonald's and Waffle House. Quite frankly, I don't know why they have two bus shelters so close, but there are on either corner there. And then also, like I said, at the library at 120 North Union. I have no objection to what they're proposing. Again, I asked them that in the future that they please reach out to us before they start ordering bus shelters, and they certainly understood that because we want to get input from council.
Is the one in Waffle House and McDonald's, is that on Route 40?
The one at the Waffle House is going to be on Otsego, and then the other will be on Route 40.
I would be a little concerned about the one on 40 because of the traffic that goes through there. I think that could cause some problems down the road. I'd almost encourage you to go back and say, why do you need two in such a close proximity? I'm afraid that I don't want to have an adverse impact on the traffic patterns on Route 40.
I agree. I'll take a look at that. Quite frankly, until today, when I started going back to it, I didn't realize that they were that close. So I will have those comments to Gary Blazinski with Hartford Transit and let him know what your concerns are.
Thank you.
I also want to put out that in front of the library there, we have a lot of near misses with pedestrians there. And having another obstruction or or something else in that path of line of sight, I know it looks like it's pretty clear, but could you just consider that? And I don't know.
Well,
it's just,
in the end, it's not much for me
Right,
to
I
consider
get
because it's a state highway right away. And to the best of my knowledge, they're on board with the project. I will relay these comments to them. Yes, there is a lot going on at that intersection.
that
there, so-
intersection's crazy. And then
Right.
again, we have near misses of pedestrians. We have near misses, whether it be for the people going across the street to the library or vice versa to the Opera House. And we've had a couple of people accidentally hit by cars because as you come up the road from downtown up, and it just seems to be hard to see people at the same time. There's just a lot going on there, and that makes me very nervous, so,
Sure,
thank you.
I'll provide those comments to them. And any other comments on that? Other than that, we have a number of development projects. The good news that you want to hear is just about every day I'm getting calls for different projects that people want to do. So the planning department is extremely busy at this time, and it's all really good stuff. So hopefully we'll see a lot of activity in the coming months and weeks. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grimm. Thank you, and good job with everything. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
I'd like to check in on the Economic Development Department with Ms. Erica Quizmary-Sturgill. Good evening.
Mayor, Council. Just real quickly to go through a few things. The Havre de Grace Office of Economic Development Advisory Board will meet us this Wednesday. We're going to meet through a Google GoToMeeting, so it'll be from 4 to 5 here in City Hall. The invite will go out to all the members of EDAB, and we'll have it live streamed on the city's website. So just the chair, Warren Hartenstein, myself, and then one presenter will be actually present in the meeting, and the rest of it will be able to go out live streamed. We also welcomed a brand new business this past Friday with a Taste of the Teal Antler, which is a women and children's clothing and accessories boutique. It's already a very successful online and mobile business with one other location as well. So the Friday, the lines extended from 119 North Washington Street to the end of North Washington Street and down Congress, just to get in and go to this boutique. So very popular, huge online presence. As we move further along and we see more openings occurring and some of the restrictions rolled back, then we'll be able to have one of our more traditional ribbon cuttings and a grand opening celebration. So we're looking forward to that in the future. And we'll have several businesses that want to catch up and go back to having a ribbon cutting and a grand opening, even though they've had soft openings so far. Our restaurants are allowed to be at that 50% capacity. On June 19th at 5 p.m., we're going to see gyms and fitness studios also be allowed to open at a similar capacity rate. A number of our gyms and yoga studios have been holding fitness programs outside, so you'll see them in the parks and down by the lighthouse. There's actually a yoga program with fainting goats right now in a lavender field. There's all kinds of things that are going on for fitness craze and fitness programs all around Havre de Grace. So check in with the various gyms and yoga studios for how they're opening so that you can kind of deal with the quarantine 15 aspect of our lives. And lastly, the Maryland Styrofoam ban. This did result in one of our businesses moving to Delaware when Styrofoam was banned by the Maryland legislature. That was to go into effect on July 1st of 2020, which would impact a lot of our businesses that do foam cups for hot coffee, beverages, soups, those sorts of things, as well as bait and tackle shops that have night crawlers and worms in a styrofoam container. Because of the situation with COVID-19, the state of Maryland and the Maryland Retailers Association has announced that that's going to be held off until October 1, 2020 for enforcement. So if you do see someone with a styrofoam container, it's not until October 1, 2020 that that's going to go into enforcement in the state because of the current situation, because of carry out and having to be cognizant of people picking up things that are very warm for their safety, as well as for the styrofoam ban. So that won't happen until October 1. I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that, because a lot of our businesses downtown are getting rid of old stock since so many people are doing carry out in Havre de Grace. But it was a crazy busy weekend this weekend downtown. It was amazing to see so many people everywhere, enjoying our parks, enjoying the promenade and all of our businesses, our shops, and our restaurants. So it was a beautiful weekend to enjoy Havre de Grace, and I'm sure we'll have many more as we move forward. And lastly, just a subtle reminder to folks who are still at home, if you have not completed your census documents, please complete your census documents. Every single person who does not complete their census over a 10-year period cost $18,250 over that 10-year period to the state of Maryland, which added up to about $26 billion in lost revenues for grants.
So say that somebody has complete chaos in their house, they can't figure out what that piece of paper is, what do they do?
uscensus.gov. Just hop online, you'll be able to find a link. You can also go on to Havre County's Community Office of Economic Development. There's a hyperlink there. You can go to library website and you can pull up information there. You're going to find it on many of the different community services sites so that you can go to the census. This is something that gives funding to our schools, to community programs, and allows us to be in a position to write and receive grants to better improve our community. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good job. I'd like to call in our Director of Finance, Mr. George DeHorty. Big night tonight, Mr. DeHorty.
Yes, sir, I agree. Thank you all, council, very much for ordinance 1035, the budget. We can keep the lights on July 1. That's always good news. And also for the 1036 ordinance, the bond authorization. We are moving forward very, very rapidly on that, and it looks like another month, 6 weeks, we'll be getting that bond issued. The first issuance we're going to do is probably a little over $9 million, almost $9.5 million. And that'll cover the first 2.5, 3 years worth of capital projects that we've got. And then we will do the second issue probably 18 to 24 months later. Is the current plan, so that because there is a limitation how long you've got to draw down the money. That's the real reason we split it into a couple of issues. But that's the current plan. But thank you all for, we now can get the ball rolling, and I appreciate that. In terms of one other item before I get to the status of the funds, Councilman Martin, welcome back. It's good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. DeHorty.
The general fund stands at just under $1.85 million as of today. We are about $1.25 million ahead of our budget expectations for the time. That can be attributed to, the county did make a $500,000 contribution that will be going into a budget amendment next year for MS4 shorelines. It's reserved for that purpose, but it is certainly welcome contribution by the county. On top of that, we have to date, since the start of the COVID, we have dropped our capital spending to about about $300,000 off the budget, which was our intent to go slow while uncertainty ruled the day, especially with capital projects where we could slow it down without causing any undue poor impact to the citizens or the infrastructure. And property taxes continue at just under $200,000 ahead of expectations. Fund 9, right now we're sitting at a 1.35 deficit, which is about $1.5 million decrease for the year. Operations resulted in a 2.35 operating profit so far year to date, which was intended to contribute to the capital program of Fund 9. To that, we've had $2.25 million worth of connection fees and other capital project restricted funding, and we have spent 6.1, the great majority on the water treatment plant upgrade that has been going on now for about 18 months since we started to work on that. Fund 8, the fund balance continues to sit at about $850,000. It's increased $200,000 for the year. About $65,000 that, and which is a good jump, was in fuel sales. So it's good to see the marina is getting back in order and people are going out and enjoying our waterfront. So that's good news. And the other 135 can be just to facility operations and again restricting on our spending. And that's the current status of the 3 major funds that we have as of today. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you and Chris Ritchie for the hard work you did on the employee benefits package and the health care, being able to keep that in check. It's a great way to help balance the budget. So I want to thank both of you for that hard effort. I knew it took a lot of negotiations, so thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I carry that forward to Chris, but I also don't, I would be negligent if I didn't include our brokers at PSA, who actually had to do the talking.
Thank you, Councilman Martin. Any
Thank
other
you, sir.
questions for Mr. DeHorty? Sir, thank you very much.
My
Thank you
pleasure,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Director of Public Works, Mr. Tim Whitty. How things going in Public Works, sir?
Very well, very well. Very busy, very busy. Just like to thank the council on their work towards on this bond bill. It's a very important step in upgrading the water and sewer systems in the city, and I'm very much appreciative of your hard work. For that, and I did talk about last council meeting where I have identified the capital projects for this year, and those have been teed up. I've solicited bids for engineering, so I have the engineers selected, and they're basically, I have not given a notice to proceed till we actually have the bond the bond in place, and we can actually tap into that money. Just a couple new things since I last spoke, last council meeting. The Bradford Green stormwater management facility that was part of an EPA consent agreement has been completed. So we've put all the landscaping in. That project is closed out, and I submitted a letter yesterday to the Environmental Protection Agency to release us from that consent decree, as well as the Phase 3 project has also been completed. We will be moving forward when we get a little bit of money to fixing the Phase 2 project that was the erosion on the slope from the last storm that we had, high tide storm. So we'll be working on a measure of reinforcement in that area to kind of take that problem away. I have a number of projects that I'm in review. I know Shane's talked about that, but we have a number of developments that are in place. I think we talked about the Green property, Ionello. I'm reviewing the stormwater concept plans for Greenway Farms. That project's moving forward, as well as I'm reviewing the preliminary plan for the Blenheim project as well. And we're having comments out. I'll have comments out to them tomorrow on that plan. I did release, we have final approval on the Bully Rock Gate project, and they'll be moving forward after we met with the representatives from Bully Rock today. The other issue we're working towards is we did meet with BG&E last Wednesday. We're going to do a similar program that we've done in the past, where we piggyback on the roads that they're putting in gas lines in, and they pave half the road, and then we pave the other half. And basically what that does is it stretches our dollars out for road improvement. So we always look forward to that. We do work well. BG&E's really a great partner. They're very giving in the amount of asphalt, paving they do for us. They do give us a break on a lot of things, and it's very nice to work with them. Water Street project, the ramp. I'm going through the permitting process on the ramp with review agencies as part of that grant for the new boat ramp at the Water Street project, at the Water Street site. And I'm going through the comments and plan review comments right now and addressing those. We're moving through the permitting process on that project. As well as the living shoreline has also been submitted, although I haven't gotten any comments back on that. That's been submitted, I believe, about 7, 8 days ago. And so that'll be smart moving forward with those plan approvals. We have a lot going on there. North Park, I met with the Lockhouse folks. We're going to initiate that project for improvements to the trail system, putting in that bridge area. And we're also going to take the Joe K Bridge. It's an ADA accessibility issue right now. It's rather steep. And we're going to regrade that and flatten that out. And also put the reinforced matting on that to give it a little bit more traction and more accessibility there. So a lot of things going on. We are moving forward. I'm with the water plans with Aberdeen. I'll be expecting a 60% submittal back to me for review in probably about 2 weeks. So with the agreement, so we're moving forward a lot of things. If anybody has any questions, but it's busy and it's fun. We're doing a lot of great things. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President?
Mr. Mayor, I want to personally thank you for the Bradford Green project. It appears that it's working in a big way, because I think with some of the recent storms, we're not experiencing the flooding concerns that they've experienced in the past in Bay Boulevard. And I think it's a small step in the right direction of moving forward to resolving Lily Run once and for all. So I'm getting excited, because
It is pretty amazing how they put all this extra storage on the other side of the culvert. So it provides a lot more storage up in that stream that wasn't there before. It's allowed to overflow the banks, so it provides a lot more storage up back behind that pipe that was going downstream before. So it is pretty amazing. We're going to be working on that project. I have some ideas as far as for some temporary ideas. I've been thinking about that culvert underneath the tracks at Evonics is about 3/4 full of sediment, and I'm trying to figure out a way maybe we could find a little bit of money. I might be able to pump some of that sediment down that would relieve temporarily, like a temporary fix until we get the stream restoration project going. But I was out there with the folks at Girard Street, I guess after that last rainstorm we had Thursday, and it was I think we got like 1.7 inches. And they were flooded out pretty bad, and part of the problem is their storm drain ties into Lily Run, but it doesn't, hydraulic gradient so high that the water doesn't drain. So if I can get that sediment out from underneath that bridge and that culvert, I think I can sort of relieve it a little bit, drop the hydraulic gradient down, level water down enough that you could get some positive drainage in the storm drain system on Girard, as well as we're looking at some drainage issues in the rear of the property. There's some flooding back there, and we did discover the fact that the city actually, between the radio station and those properties on Girard, the city actually has a paper alley and an easement, which allows us to get back there and do some work back there.
Well, at least it's on the radar screen.
It is on the radar screen. So. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Woody. Excellent work. I'd like to call in the Chief of Police, Chief Tressa Walter. Good evening, Chief Walter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know we are still in the midst of a pandemic, but I'm going to add to those issues and say that we have also begun hurricane season. And that usually goes from June to November. So with that, I'd like to remind people of some of the things that they need to consider during this time of the year. Hopefully we will never see one this season, but there are some things to consider just in case. You still have to be ready and be prepared. Some of the things that I want you to think about is actually putting together a plan. Some of the questions when you're developing your plan is to actually consider where you're going to be sheltering if there is in fact a hurricane that is coming to our community. Are you going to stay home? If you're being told to evacuate, where to go, who to contact, make those kind of plans. Make sure that you're also aware of evacuation routes. That's, again, very, very important. And listen to law enforcement, fire, or EMS when we are directing you to certain locations. Also, figure out what kind of an internal communication plans that you have with your family. Is it cell phone? Are you going to call another relative? Those types of things. So think about that. And since we are still in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, also still plan to have your masks, disinfectant, hand sanitizers, those types of things. Consider specifics when it comes to your household, such as the different ages of people that are in your household, either little children or elderly people, who's going to take care of them, assign somebody to taking care of very specific people, and also look at what needs they might have as far as medications, if they need any kind of medical equipment to get around or to be transported. Those are those things that you have to think about. Also consider pets and service animals. A lot of times people have a tendency, and I hate to say that, but they simply don't have a way to move pets or take pets with them, so a lot of times that they leave them behind. So if you can make arrangements now for pets, please think about it. That's very, very important. And then finally, make sure that you fill out your emergency plan, but most important also to practice it with your family. Just do some dry runs with people so that they know what to do, what their assignments are, and it will go like clockwork, hopefully, if in fact we do ever get a hurricane or you do have to evacuate. So that's very, very important. So I just want to let people know about, again, remind them that it's hurricane season. I know we've already had a hurricane in our country, but you don't want to wait till the last minute to try to figure all these things out. That's it.
Great. Chief, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 14, business from the mayor. First thing I want to talk about is everybody knows for the last 56 years that the Havre de Grace Art Show has taken place here in Havre de Grace, Titans Park, and every year that the art show takes place, that they have a dedicated poster for that particular year. The art show posters have become very collectible over time. Many people make sure that they don't miss one single year's edition. Well, unfortunately, as everybody knows, if you've heard, the Sir Optimists that promote the art show had to cancel the art show this year due to COVID-19 concerns for various reasons, and that the 57th annual art show would not be held. But I got news for you now. The art show has reached out to us, and they did tell us that they will be rescheduling the art show for 2021 in August, but this year they're planning on having a virtual event in the near future that's going to feature exhibitors, food, children's activities, etc. And they told us to stay tuned, which is good. That's good news. But the better news is if you're out there and you collect every edition of the art show posters, there will be a year 57 poster. Want to see it? Council President, want to help me hold one side of it? Guys want to zoom in on this?
That's beautiful.
Behold, the 57th annual Havre de Grace Art Show poster from a longtime photographer and exhibitor of the art show, Sean Simmons of Bel Air. So you are looking at the 57th edition of the Havre de Grace Art Show poster. Now, if you're wondering where you can get one of these, they're presently available online to purchase at the Havre de Grace Art Show Facebook page or website. So you can go to the Havre de Grace Art Show Facebook page or website and send a message and you'll be able to purchase one. Or you can pick one up in person at Moon and Sea Creations. Moon and Sea Creations at 467 Franklin Street here in Havre de Grace, if you want to get one. So this will be a very special collector's edition. I bet you, you know, not as many people come out and get this one as usual if you can just pick them up at the show. But what I'm saying is get out and get one because this is a real special one. And it's a wonderful looking picture too. So we want to thank the Disruptives for all the hard work they're doing, as well as Cindy Height for bringing this picture over to City Hall. And again, go to Havre de Grace Art Show Facebook page or website or Moon and Sea Creation and pick one up. Thank you, Council President. I want to also thank the Havre de Grace Green Team for the ribbon cutting of the compost collection center at Hutchins Park. I have a feeling Councilmember Boyer is going to talk more about that later, right? So I'm just going to say that. So I'm going to say personally thank you to the Green Team for working out the details to get the compost collection center going at Hutchins Park. The playground and promenade updates as of this past weekend, June 13th. The promenade has been switched back to both directions, and the playgrounds in the city that are public playgrounds that the city owns and operates are now open to the public again. I want to thank everybody for their patience in working with the city since March, since we as a society and a community have been dealing with the trials and tribulations of a global pandemic and how it affects us here personally at home. And we want to thank everybody who adhered to the rules of walking in one direction on the promenade. I know it was an inconvenience for some people, but we appreciate everybody working together and trying to minimize the exposures of other people to the COVID pandemic. As far as the playgrounds go, you know, it's pretty apparent the inherent dangers of playgrounds with hundreds of kids with runny noses touching them and touching equipment. You don't really want to get children sick. But it's been 3 months since we've shut them down. We are now into stage 2 of the governor's reopening plan. We feel now, with the data being shown for the state of Maryland, more importantly Hartford County and Havre de Grace, that we can cautiously reopen the playgrounds. There is signage, though, that reminds people that even though the playgrounds are open, please keep your social distancing as best you can. I would definitely recommend to parents, most parents already have this, but, you know, make sure you have a little bottle hand sanitizer with you when your kids get off the playground, wipe their hands down and your hands down. And more importantly, if you're not feeling good or if you don't think your kid's feeling good and has a runny nose, just go home, get better, and come back when you're feeling a little bit better and play on equipment. And I also want to let all the kids out there know, as promised, we have a brand new piece of equipment that got delivered. We removed an older piece of equipment that was fading and put a really nice piece of equipment in the playground, and we remulched it. So again, we want children and families to enjoy the city of Havre de Grace's parks. Just please be careful, because as the saying goes, low threat does not mean no threat. Okay, COVID is still out there, and it's still a very, very real thing, and we don't want to see anybody get sick. With the playground and promenade opening, City Hall is also open to the public. So starting today, June 15th, we are now opening our lobby. If you wish to come to City Hall and pay a water bill or tax bill, or if you have a question, feel free to come to City Hall and ask the receptionist, or simply just inquire about getting a permit. Whatever business you have, the lobby at City Hall is now open, so we can do face-to-face work with citizens. Just please be mindful that when in City Hall, protect the safety of our employees as well, so please monitor social distancing. And we ask that when you're in a building at City Hall, if you could put a face mask on while you're inside City Hall. Thank you. Another reminder, city elections will be June 23rd. I sent an all-call out on the telephone last Friday, and I'll probably send one more out, phone call Sunday night, this Sunday night coming up, Father's Day, just to remind people, in case you've been keeping score, we had to cancel or postpone our May 5th city council elections this year due to many reasons, but they were all COVID related. And the council gave the authority to do so, and council also gave the authority to reestablish the election date to be June 23rd. So Tuesday, June 23rd, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., but here's the catch. The election's going to be here at City Hall. It's not going to be at St. Patrick Hall where it normally is. So it's going to be right here at City Hall, same place where you voted in February for the special election on the bond bill. So here at City Hall, June 23rd, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And another thing I wanted to bring up, I was waiting until we got a little more under our belt, but I have an update for the citizens. It's been my intention since I took office that I wanted to provide the public with what I call total access to city records, resolutions, laws, and ordinances. Normally, if a citizen wants to do research or has a question about a law or a resolution that was passed 20 years ago, the method now is you come to City Hall and you fill out a public information request, and then we go digging through it through our archives and microfiche and all those other things. And it really shouldn't be that difficult. All of our laws and our resolutions and minutes from council meetings are all public. And they are public. Nobody gets denied, but it's kind of a couple steps to get them. And it's not even really, it's not easy for the public to get access to these documents. So I want everyone to know that one of the things this administration has been working on is easy access to the repository of city records. We've established a central file repository, and that we will receive and catalog and classify and store all copies, hard copy files of all meetings. We filed an e-file system that was created that resembled the hard files, and a commitment to continue the process of we're still digitizing files on the Laserfiche. We're upgrading our current E-code. Basically, let me put it this way. If you went to the city website right now, to date, we were able to put on all city council resolutions from 1979 to 2020. So you can go right to your computer, go to city government, go to charter and code, and then there'll be a drop-down thing on the left that says resolutions. You click that on, and every single resolution that was acted on by the City of Havre de Grace Council from 1979 to 2020 should be right at your fingertips. We're working on ordinances, and we're working on city council meeting minutes. So this is a work in progress. So to summarize everything I'm saying here, what I'm trying to tell the public is our goal is to make it really, really easy for the public to access archived records. So it's a work in progress. We have the resolutions up right now, but just keep checking back on the website once or twice a month, and we should have more and more updated all the time. So just bear with us. We'll make it easy for you. And finally, the last thing I want to bring up, so we do have a city council election next Tuesday on the 23rd. There are 4 council members running for 3 seats. There's also a ballot question on the ballot, and it's something that was and it deals with the term of mayor. The ballot question gives ask the citizens, do you support giving the mayor's seat a 3-year term versus a 2-year term to take place after the next election? This was voted on, I think, back in February by council to place on the ballot. Haven't talked about it a whole lot lately. We've been dealing with the COVID pandemic, but it is a ballot question. And I received a couple emails this week after I sent my phone call out to everybody, asking me what the thought process was on asking the ballot question. And again, it's just, to me, it's kind of it's matching up the job description to the job duties. The Havre de Grace City Charter gives the mayor's office a lot of authority. However, it wasn't always that way. Back in the 90s, we had a city manager that ran the city. And so when you have a city manager government, the city manager runs the city, and the mayor is more, I don't want to say the word ceremonial, but the mayor's has a reduced role in running the government. Our charter's changed, and now we have the mayor, by the charter, is chief executive officer of the city. But we still have the 2-year term left over, and it's been that way since 1878. It's been a 2-year term. It's been a two-year term forever. And whereas there's nothing absolutely at all wrong with the 2-year term. It actually provides for a stronger democracy because the mayor's up for approval every 2 years. Being in this position and standing 3 elections, and completing my 5th year as mayor, I can say from experience that in the future, and remove me from the situation and just think of the mayor's office itself. When the people go vote for a mayor, they're voting for someone who will have direct oversight of the city government and operations and of the day-to-day operation of the city, and there's a lot to do. A lot of times, hopefully, when people vote for a new mayor, in a lot of ways you'll get some more positive change or things that either we continue something good or if something's going bad, you can put a good mayor in office and they'll help put things back on track. Well, a lot of times when you vote for a mayor, he or she will need to bring in a team. Sometimes you can use the people there. Sometimes a mayor wants to bring in their own team. And a mayor is absolutely entitled to bring their own team in. And when I say team, I'm talking about director of administration, possibly a police chief, possibly director of finance, so on and so forth, to run the city in the vision in which the people elected them to do so. And the reason why I support the council's decision to put this on the ballot is 2 years is a real short amount of time for a newly elected mayor to get in and to exact the effective change in which the people voted for him to do. It's difficult sometimes to find the best people that you possibly can within 2 years. You just can't put an ad in a paper and say, hey, I need a new director of planning. They don't necessarily always come from Havre. Sometimes you might wait weeks, months before you get people applying for that job. And they might live in Ohio. They might live in New York. They might live in Virginia. And they're like, well, I like the job, but I'm going to move here. But, how long is my contract for? And we give 3-year contracts in the city, and then the person realizes that their boss only has a 2-year term. So we saw some of that early on in the years where sometimes it's to get the right talent doesn't always sit right under your face here in Havre. Sometimes you have to reach out a little bit and bring in the right people to make your team. So in one aspect, having the mayor's term match the contract terms of the directors would be an advantage of trying to recruit people to come to the city. Also, when you look at things as far as writing money for grants, by the time you identify a project, by the time you design a project, by the time you realize how much it's going to cost to get it done, and by the time you write grant money and try to go down to the state to get bond bills, that takes more than 2 years, at least. That's another reason that the chief executive officer should have a 3-year term versus a 2-year term. Here's an academic question for you. Every time the mayor runs, the mayor always runs with these folks over here. So every other year, the mayor runs, and the mayor runs with the 3 council members over here. On an off year, when the mayor doesn't run, these 3 council members run on a seat. Many times, if you look at the voting results, you'll have 2,400 people vote on this election with the mayor, and you might have 1,400 people vote when it's just 3 council members. Now, I know that's not the strongest reason I could give you, but we always call it weak side, strong side, because it's very common to have 800 to 1,000 people less vote for these council members. And if the mayor had a 3-year term, then when the mayor runs for election, then I would 1 year, or the mayor would 1 year fall on that election, then the mayor would fall on that side of election because the mayor would have a 3-year term while the council members keep the 2-year terms. That's a little political science end for you. But Anyway, I agree. Back to the biggest point is this: if you put someone in office, he or she definitely needs a little bit more than 2 years to get their team in place. When I took office in 2015, I hit the ground running. And I had Mr. Patrick Seipolt as my director of administration, who already knew how the city ran, who already, knew how to get things done as quick as he could. And it was a sprint to get some things done within 2 years. I mean, and if I would have lost the 2017 election, whoever would have beat me could have wiped out half the stuff I wanted or was working on. Which, I mean, if he would have won, I guess that's fine with the people. But what I'm saying is, when you go to vote and you see the ballot question, don't think about the person, don't think about me or other mayors. Think about the future of your city. And when you vote in the future for the mayor's office, what do you want that mayor to be able to accomplish? Many chief executive terms are 4 years. Aberdeen's a 4-year term, and county executive, governor, stuff like that. I don't think 4 years, we don't need 4 years. 4 years is a long time. 4 years is the same amount of time as when a kid goes into 9th grade and graduates from 12th grade. That seemed like forever when I was in high school. But we're asking 3 years. So anyway, I ask your support for 3 years moving forward. If it gets approved, it'll take place after the next election. So if it gets approved, you're not adding a year to my term right now. I'm still up for election next year. Just to let you know. So if you have any questions, call City Hall. If you have any questions about the 3-year term, I'd be happy to talk to you. Just call City Hall and see if Mayor say, hey, I want to talk to the mayor real quick about the ballot question. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. All right, with that said, I want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day if you happen to be a father. It's coming up next Sunday, all right? So take care, everybody, and thank you. With that, we're going to go to Councilmember Robertson.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, city staff, ladies and gentlemen at home. Couple things. First of all, thank you very much, Patrick and April, for addressing my questions, concerns, etc. As usual. Also, I want to give a shout out to George and Steve for addressing some questions this past week, and Tim and Steph for all the work that they're doing with the living shoreline. They took the time to really come down to us at the Legion and explain what that was going to be and what the impact was going to be, and answered a lot of questions from some hard-nosed folks. So I know that, can't always be the easiest to get along with, but they handled it very well and had lots of good information, very easy to work with. So, Mayor, you got some really great staff, speaking of staff. I want to mention that the county council members this past week, County Council Member Curtis Biola, Chad Schroeds, and County Council President Pat Vincente came down to the Legion to take a look at our marina project down there and maybe get some help from the county with that project. So I just want to thank them for their involvement and their willingness to see that project through. It really will make a big difference for our vets and a lot of the things that we do on the water there with various VSOs and MSOs and military families. Also, I gotta say, man, I'm really impressed with our local restaurants and the kind of versatility and ingenuity that they've showed over the last few months and still continue to show, taking the punches as they come. And, Erica had said it right that downtown was buzzing. We got a chance to go out. I think it was my first night at a restaurant in months now, and had a good time. I felt like the staff took all the necessary precautions. Maybe all the patrons didn't, but the staff definitely did. And I think a lot of kudos has to go out to our local restaurants and bars. Finally, I know there's been a lot of negativity floating around social media and, just in general. I think a lot of anxiety has led up to some of that and, a lot of things that are going on at the national level. But today, I had some good news come my way. A buddy of mine gave birth to a son and another buddy of mine that he and his wife have been trying for years now to conceive, finally announced that they will be having a child this year. And also another buddy of mine graduated law school. Plus, I've been seeing lots of friends share their videos of high school graduations and pictures of high school graduations and all that. And it just reminds me of what my grandfather used to say a lot. He was a Southern full gospel preacher from Southern Virginia. And every time I saw him or talked to him on the phone, he'd always leave me with like one of a handful of Bible verses. And one of them was Philippians 4, verse 8. And he'd always remind me in that deep Southern drawl, think on the good things. Philippians 4, verse 8, think on the good things. So, you know, it just kind of reminds you that no matter, I guess, how depressing and often overwhelming some of the things that go on around you can be, and I tend to internalize a lot of that myself, but just reminds you to keep your mind on the good things. I'm going to read it if you all don't mind. So Philippians 4, verse 8, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments for the evening.
Well said, Councilman Robertson. Thank you very much. Councilmember Martin, good to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Council President, council members, citizens at home. One of the things I want to talk about is I want to thank all the hard work of the city staff and of the council and the mayor on this budget. One of the things we talked about this budget was we have an understanding that we will have to look at it again. So I want the people to know we will be looking at the budget later to address the shortcomings that may come up. We know that the highway user fees is going to be one of them. During the stay-at-home time, people haven't been on the highway, so the gas taxes haven't been collected. So believe in the city council, as I do, and the mayor and his administrative staff, that in the future, we will be reviewing the budget to make sure it stays balanced and we stay on track. With that, Mr. Mayor, I wish everybody a happy Father's Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Martin. Councilmember Ringsager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I want to start by saying, Councilmember Martin, it is so wonderful to have you back here, Pop. You look great. I'm so glad you're in better health. Continue to improve, and we're here for you if you need anything from any one of us. You know, you can call us.
Thank you.
You know, it was said earlier about the tourism downtown this past weekend. It was crazy. You could almost just barely get down the streets on Saturday because of all the cars everywhere and people parking all over the place. Stephanie's doing a great job with McGregor's out at the seaplane base, and Margie and Willie, you know, getting everybody out in the patio, the beer garden at Coakley's, and Bruce down the road. It's filled up with capacity as well. It's just great seeing our restaurants, seeing the people downtown. Just people out and about again. It's almost like a feeling of normalcy, and I know a lot of us are missing that. I would like to comment on the mayor's explanation for the referendum vote. That was perfectly put. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's why the council voted to put that on the as a referendum on the ballot. Everything you stated was an extremely valid reason, and I do hope everybody does vote for that as well. So I would like to state that Meadowvale, 5th grade, every year they do a thing called a clap out, where the students leaving the school, going to middle school, the 5th graders will go out in a line, and the teachers and everybody will stand there and clap, and it's a big tradition at the school. Well, because of COVID and the school board issues, we couldn't have it this year. But school ends tomorrow. So some of the parents, specifically Jessica Veda, wonderful woman, she's also with my daughter's scout troop, they put together a clap out this Saturday. So I'm going to read this. It's Meadowvale 5th grade clap out. Help us keep this Meadowvale tradition alive in an adapted version for these crazy times. These 5th graders deserve to go out in true Meadowvale Elementary School style. Saturday, June 20th at Chapel Road Park, up on Chapel Road. 9:15 a.m. students arrive on Field 4. 9:30 a.m. the parade of students start. family, friends, neighbors, alumni, anyone who wants to cheer on our 5th grade graduates. Socially distance yourself along the walkway for the kids to walk by you. Bring your posters, noisemakers, etc. Please wear face masks when you are near others out of respect. Kids will be socially distanced for their walk and will be able to remove their masks if they choose to during the walk. Let's send these kids to middle school in style. I encourage everybody to come out there. Just show up, have fun. We're going to have Kona Ice up there. 20% of the sales go back to Meadowvale, and I really encourage everybody to come out there. On the 23rd, I encourage everybody to get out and vote. Everything's really weird how it's happening this year, but we'll get through this. And last but not least, I want to wish a wonderful 11th birthday to my beautiful daughter, Sydney. She's had a pretty tough year, and she's come through it on top. She had spinal surgery back in August. Found out she needs knee surgery. We're going to have to take care of that, but she's just doing wonderfully. And I couldn't be more proud to be her dad. So happy 11th birthday, sweetheart. Mr. Mayor, that's it.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Ringstocker. Good evening, Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mayor. And everybody at the City Council and everybody watching us at home. First, I want to thank the Jaffes for putting on another very successful candidates forum. It was a great experience. Unfortunately, the video and the mics kind of didn't time up as well, but hopefully you were able to get a good feeling of the candidates that are available on the ballot for this year. It was really cool to see everybody out and about this weekend. I want to give a huge congratulations to the Teal Antler. That was just absolutely overwhelming to see so many people trying to get into a rather small shop. And they had great sales all weekend, and hopefully they can keep it on. They work great with Joseph's across the street, and everybody's working together. It's a great sense of camaraderie on that end of the street, and it's good to see more retail happening up on that side too. The farmers market, again, Patrick, you're right. It's a lot bigger. There's a lot more vendors coming out. More people are being respectful and wearing their masks. As you walk into the farmers market and talking about the green team, you will see a large metal fenced area with green containers in it, trash containers, and that is for the food waste recycling. I want to encourage everyone to participate in it. If you bring items in a plastic bag, please empty the items into the containers. Do not put the plastic bag in it. They take practically everything from your proteins to, of course, vegetables, the paper towels that you would use and the napkins that you would use, any compostable plates if you're going to have a picnic. They also take pizza boxes and other large containers like that. So for the next couple of weeks, the green team will be there to answer any of your questions. There's also going to be a raffle for a composting bin and all the coupons that go with that, the recyclable bags, etc. But again, I want to encourage everyone to make this a part of your lifestyle so that we can reduce the amount of substance going to our landfills, to reduce the methane gas, but more importantly, so that we take all that great nutrients and use it for our food moving forward. Thank you very much, Mayor, for being a part of it, and Jimmy for coming out and supporting the green team. We had a good amount of people there for the groundbreaking of it, and I know it's been a buzz of people within the community and on Facebook that they're glad to see it happening, so let's keep going. Driving here today, I realized that there's something that's just about time to get rid of it in our community, and that is on Congress Avenue, the 700 block. There are these two signs that say "Do not enter," and I would like to make a motion on behalf of the council to the mayor and to DPW that by the end of the week, would it be possible for you to remove them? So it makes it easier for people who are not from our area, not be scared to death to drive down the street thinking that they're going the wrong way or into a street that they don't enter. So I move that we ask the Department of Public Works to remove the do not enter signs at the 700 block of Congress by the end of this week.
A second.
Where exactly are they located?
Right in the middle of Congress.
Yeah.
It's on our, street.
It's
It's
that
on
whole,
our
that's 700
street.
block.
But I question is whether or not they're school board signs, but they're on our street. They usually draw chains across it during the day.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Boyer, second by Councilman Ringsacher. Questions or comments? Councilman Robertson?
Mr. Mayor, I think, Casey, that's a great idea. You know, I know lots of folks from out of town don't really know the area that well, and being that this was the last year for the high school, I see no reason to keep those signs there. So I'm in full agreement with you, and good idea.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Councilmember Boyer's motion is approved, 6-0 in the affirmative.
I think they're on wheels. I can do it after the meeting.
So thank you all very much. You know, just thinking about all the changes and all the classes coming out to get their photos taken in front of the school, you know, it's a great positive step for our community, and it's another sign of great things that are coming to our community. Add that to all the permits, you know, it's just the beginning. There's great things happening, so.
Those signs might be worth something.
Maybe we can save them for the
Don't
art.
discard them.
So, and finally, happy Father's Day to everybody. Hope you have a wonderful, relaxing weekend, and that somebody cooks some bratwurst and other things for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Zinner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, and citizens at home. I really don't have too much that hasn't already been mentioned this evening. I do want to welcome back Councilmember Martin, though, and glad to see you in much better health. I know you're not 100% yet, but we know we'll see that soon. I also want to mention that the Arts Commission will be finally hosting the return of concerts in the park this Friday evening. Want to remind people about the census.
Hold on, Councilmember Zinner.
It got canceled till July.
You
Yeah.
did?
Yeah, we just got updated news. It's not taking place.
Oh, I apologize then. I got a message this afternoon from the commission saying it was on for
When did you get it?
today, this
Today.
afternoon. Or this morning, today I got it.
According to the,
Okay, all right, that's
Yeah.
fine. And also, I heard advertising on the radio as well for the concert in the park on June 19th.
and not to our knowledge, according to the Chief of Staff and Director of Administration,
Okay,
and we've been talking with them regularly. I'm not,
okay, no, I
Yeah.
don't doubt it, I just,
Yeah, there was an advertisement going around. You're right.
yeah, it was an advertisement on the radio, and then today I got a message from Christie.
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but the way the governor's directive is, you can have a concert, but you can't have an audience.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's kind of weird. So
Well,
I
we're
mean,
getting
it's,
used to that, aren't we?
so if they have a concert in the park, you have to tell people not to show up. No, I'm kidding. No,
Okay,
it's
okay, well, I
they ended
apologize.
up canceling. There might be a miscommunication there.
Well,
Okay.
they communicated it earlier today that it was on Facebook and a couple other social medias that they were having it. And then late this afternoon, they came out with a apology and a cancellation notice
I didn't see
until
that one then.
July.
Not a
Okay,
problem.
all right,
all good.
okay. Well, don't go to the park for a concert. On my account. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was the application for the absentee ballot process. I had called the elections board late last week, as soon as the applications were available. They couldn't help me, so I got on the website and I did find the application for the ballot. And I called back to give them further instructions, so if they got additional phone calls, they could give the appropriate instructions. So when I called back, they asked me what my name was. I told them my address, and they said, well, you don't need an application. We can just send you the ballot. And I said, I don't really think that's correct. So I said, all right, but I had already filled out my application for the absentee ballot, and I put it in the mail. 2 days later, I get an envelope. I thought, this is really quick. I open it up, and it's the application and not the ballot. So I am very happy that I mailed my application for the ballot, and I'm waiting for it. So we don't have as much time as we've had in past years, so I just want to remind everyone, if you want to vote absentee, you really need to have the application. You can call the election board and they will send it to you, or you can go on the website, which is much quicker, print it out, fill it out and sign it and send it to the elections board, or drive it to Forest Hill and hand deliver it, and you will get a ballot. And then you can drop your ballot off at City Hall up until Election Day at 5 p.m. I mentioned a little bit about the Seroptimus Virtual Art Show. That is not up, the website's not up yet, but I'm sure you'll get an announcement via social media when that happens. They're waiting for some of their vendors, but they're also planning entertainment live stream, not in the park. So something to look forward to. The other thing I would like to do, though, is I'd like to correct some brief but incorrect comments I made at the last council meeting regarding the K. Mike and Elba Boyos scholarships. These awards are funded by the surviving families, not a trust, and that's what I had said. And the K. Mike scholarship is in her honor, but somehow I did not mention her name. And I apologize for that, because in all honesty, I'm actually well aware that it's the K. Mike scholarship. These special awards honor the women for whom they are named, for their decades of service to not only the Seroptimus organization, but to the larger community. And in the case of Mrs. Mike, her service to the city as past president of our city council. These gifts are living testimonials to the honor and recognition these generous women deserve. And these legacy awards contribute to supporting their memory and accomplishments in the most positive way. These awards may someday present an opportunity for the recipients, when time and finances permit, to pay it forward. In my opinion, there is no better way to maintain the memories and generosity of K. Mike and Elba Boyle. And we certainly appreciate their generosity and that of their family. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Tonight.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Zinner. CP?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Councilmember Ringstacker, I want you to send birthday wishes along to your daughter and tell her I hope she enjoys her special day. Councilmember Martin, welcome back, buddy.
Thanks.
I gotta say, you took a very tough path to lose a couple pounds. But I'll say that, you know, I was stayed in contact with Dave or Debbie throughout the process, and when you send a text message to Dave and he doesn't respond within like 30 seconds, you know he's a sick puppy. And so you look much better, and I'm glad you're back on the dais, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
In light of COVID-19, we face some challenging times. And given that, I'd like to give a shout out to all the first responders, the doctors, the nurses, the firefighters, the EMTs, the paramedics, the police officers, et cetera, and the list goes on, and just personally thank them for all they do each and every day. They are the true unsung heroes, and they have been so throughout this pandemic. Like Councilmember Robertson said, I want to thank all the restaurants and the small business owners who've had to change their business practices in an effort to persevere. And I encourage residents to continue to support them in light of these challenging times. It hasn't been tough for them. And the last but not least, I want to thank all the residents who continue to practice social distancing. Because of your commitment to follow established guidelines, you have kept the numbers in Havre Grace to extremely low levels. And I say that because it was reported by the Havre Grace Patch that in the 21078 zip code, they account for only about 3.7% of all the cases in Harford County. So that's really great news for the Havre Grace community. Speaking of the police department, I want to make mention that when discussing the budget, there were no conversations regarding defunding our police department. That's because we have outstanding officers. We've got a model school resource officer program that sets the standard not only for the state of Maryland, but I think nationwide. We have an outstanding leadership team in Chief Walter, Captain Alton, and Captain Krass. And in large part through their efforts, We are the fourth safest community, we've said this many times, in the United States in which to raise children. And it doesn't hurt that we have residents, to include our youth, that know the true meaning of respect. And I think it pays off in a big way. And with that being said, it really just shows Havre Grace strong. Despite COVID-19, the construction of the new replacement school continues to move forward and is on schedule to open this fall. And every time you drive down Lewis Lane, you can't help but get excited at the progress that continues to go forward. And the bottom line is the long-awaited dream that this community has wished for will undoubtedly benefit our students for years to come. So we're proud, Grace on top. As I was said earlier, Tuesday's June 23rd is Election Day, and I encourage all voters to get out and vote. This is your chance to have your voices heard. Don't miss that opportunity. And with that being said, I want to piggyback what the mayor said, that there is a proposal to change the term of the mayor from 2 years to 3 years. I've been a long supporter of two-year terms for the city council. I believe that it's up to us every 2 years to prove our worth and to get reelected. But when it comes to the mayor, I think we really need to consider the 3-year term. And I say that for two primary reasons. Like the mayor said earlier, it walks hand in hand with the 3-year terms of the contract, of the directors, his directors who are contract positions. So that if and when you do get a new mayor, if he so desires, he can bring in his own team. And to me, that truly makes sense. But more importantly, and I want to reinforce this, it promotes the opportunity of fairness. And I say that because, as the mayor said earlier, every year he runs, one side of the dais runs with him. So if they decide they want to run for mayor, they have to pretty much give up their seat to run for mayor. On my side of the dais, we could run for mayor without the risk of losing our seat. So if you change it to 3-year terms, it'll alternate, back and forth. And I think that really, truly makes sense and will give every opportunity for every city council member that sits on this dais to run for mayor at some time or another without the risk of losing their seat, if they so desire. But more importantly, I want to say that I'm excited the fact that it's going on the ballot. When you look at other municipalities, they make the decision. They make the decision whether they're getting raises. They make the decision whether it's 2-year, 3-year, 4-year terms. But this council and this administration saw fit to put the decision in your hands. So like when you go to the election day on the 23rd, and you place your vote on whether you agree with 2 years or 3 years, your vote or my vote counts no more than yours. I mean, everybody has a chance to have their voices heard. And to me, that's the way it should be. That's the way that you should have a voice. You decide who sits in these seats. Therefore, I think you should decide whether the length of the terms. So with that being said, I hope to see you at the polls. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for your comments, Council President. We're going to go into item number 16 this evening, which is adjournment. Anybody wish to give a motion to adjourn? Council President, second by Councilmember Martin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to adjourn carries 6-0 in the affirmative. The time is 8:58. And that will conclude the June 20th meeting. We'll see you at the next council meeting, which will be July 6th. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you at the polls.